Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new video, and welcome to the very center of Moscow. Now today, I thought I would show you a secret supermarket, and what I think is the most typical supermarket in all of Russia, and it's only 700 square meters from Red Square, which is right behind me. Let's go check it out. Just to give you some perspective of where I am, you can see this sloped, paved road that leads up to Red Square. We're right by one of the corners of the Kremlin. This is the State Historical Museum right here. There's a lot of people in the center of Moscow today. This is the Four Seasons Hotel, one of the most expensive hotels in Moscow, perhaps in all of Russia as well. And they are actually doing a lot of the preparations for the Victory Day parade in a couple of days' time. However, if you're standing right here and you're wondering, where do people go shopping? Where are the supermarkets? I want to show you one that is the most typical in all of Russia. And if you're a person from Russia watching this, I wonder if you can guess which store I'm going to show you. 700 meters from where I'm standing. So if perhaps you've come across my channel and this is the first video you've seen, I make a lot of videos here in Moscow. I'm actually an Australian who lives in Moscow region. I live about 50 kilometers from where I'm standing right now. And a lot of my videos are about normal, typical things here in Russia. And I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while because there is the most typical supermarket in Russia, steps away from Red Square and the Kremlin. And I think it just needs to be shown on YouTube because I don't think even people who live in Moscow know about this place. So I think these cobblestones might be very familiar if you have ever been to Red Square or not. And these yellow markings are the parade route lines. And in a few days' time, the military equipment will follow. And actually, where we want to go is that same direction that the vehicles will come down. This is Tverskaya Street, and it's one of the main roads that lead out or into Moscow. Now, you can't actually walk across the street here because it's incredibly busy with traffic. There's an underpass. We just need to walk a few minutes up this street. After a quick walk under the underpass, I'm now on the main walkway that leads you away from the center of Moscow and along Tverskaya Street. Anybody is not from Russia can let me know what's happening with TISO. They did announce about 2 years ago that they were leaving Russia. However, they've got a very handy location right here in the very center of Moscow. And it's super interesting when you see a lot of Western brands that are here that actually left, but they're still here. We're just going to walk a few minutes and we'll be right there. They're doing lots of arranging ahead of Victory Day, putting some nice flowers and plants in all the flower beds. This street is where the main parade and procession comes down in a couple of days' time. So it's very well known and will be very hugely documented on television and social media all around the world. So I've literally walked 5 minutes from Red Square. You can actually see the corner spire of the Kremlin just off in the distance, the red bricks that make up the actual Kremlin itself. And this is where I want to come to right here, Magnit. This is one of, or if not the most typical supermarket in all of Russia. It's in this very beautiful Stalinka apartment building right here at the same time. It's actually open 24 hours a day as well. So I'm going to go on inside We're gonna have a look around together. I actually want to walk in the door and show you how difficult it is to actually find this place, because you'd be walking along Tverskaya Street and not notice the sign that tells you there's a supermarket here. You actually have to walk through a little coffee shop. There's a little shop here selling frozen fish, of all things. And then you see the Magnit sign right there. And the arrow is telling us that it's downstairs in this lower basement area. It's the most underwhelming supermarket, yet it's only 5 minutes from Red Square. And that's why I want to show you this place. It's very common actually, and very typical, that a lot of supermarkets in Russia are in the basement of buildings. There is a pickup point here for Ozon, which is a very well-known online shopping website. And this is Magnit. Let's figure out where we want to have a look around. There is actually 2 entrances, one on the right-hand side here. The self-checkouts in the middle, and then all of the drinks over here on the right-hand side. As I walk towards the back of the shop, I just want to give you a few statistics about Magnit, which is quite interesting. There is more than 29,000 locations across all of Russia. They employ 316,000 people across the whole country as well. Now, what's really interesting is 78% of their employees are ladies. And then the rest are guys, whatever they might be doing in the business. And this is one of the largest employers in all of Russia. And actually at the moment, they're technically the 2nd largest retail chain. They've just recently bought another supermarket chain to add to their portfolio. So this is as typical as it gets. And I hope it's interesting to have a look around a Magnit. No matter where you are in Russia, if you're 5,000 kilometers from where I'm standing, you can find one of these stores, and you can find pretty much exactly the same things that I'm showing you here, no matter where you are in the country. So I have actually been to this shop quite a few times before. This will be the first time I've ever made a video here though. And of course, if you are a long-time follower of the channel, you know this is how my channel started, showing a lot of the different retail and supermarkets in Russia. And actually where I live, I have a Magnit about 5 minutes from my house, which is 50 kilometers from here. Actually, it's not too different. Perhaps this might be a little bit bigger because they've got a bigger basement space. They do have a very large wine selection here. Now, the way they actually put the wines on the shelf, very typically in Russia, they just have single facings. That way they can actually get a considerable larger selection on the walls, and there is more things to choose from. And then quite often, depending on the size of the shop, they'll have some pallets and floor stacks, because everything's loaded in here from the street level to the basement. So they're very limited for space in storage. Some cool drinks here. Actually, these are a lot of energy drinks. Of course, this red fridge might look familiar. You can see the wave there. This was Coca-Cola. And then, of course, from the same factory, Dobra Cola is produced there. Actually, now they're using a little bit of everything in here. Pulpy. I think also it's Coca-Cola. And there's some beer right here. And beer is very reasonably priced in Russia. Now, I'm not making this video about the prices. I really wanted to show you the most typical supermarket in Russia, walking distance from Red Square. And this gentleman, he's like most men that come in the store. He's spoilt for choice when it comes to beer and what you want to drink. Now, pretty much any can of beer here is under 100 rubles, which would make it under $1 US. So there is plenty of choices. There's also some zero alcohol drinks here as well. Of course, with beer, you've got beer snacks. Plenty of choices if you want something to eat while you have a drink. And then all of the alcohol and spirits. Now, Magnit is not so well known for having a large alcohol selection. There is a lot of standalone alcohol shops in Russia where people would shop. So this is more of a complementary selection. A little bit of everything. A lot more smaller bottles as well. People aren't necessarily going to come and do their weekly grocery shopping in here. People will just buy things mostly for takeaway. So the registers for payment, like anywhere else in the world. Also got chocolate, Milka, plenty of choices of Milka chocolates. Also some ice creams. It's not very warm outside, but ice creams will become very popular soon. We can still buy Nutella here in Russia. So there is actually the regular checkouts, or the service checkouts with the very nice lady here. And then people are queuing, yet there's self-checkouts available. One young guy wants to use it, but they're not very typical, and most people prefer to be helped by the lady. They do have a fridge here with ready food, and this is prepared food that you can just heat in the microwave and eat. Also some sandwiches, soups, some salads. I did a very interesting video that you should check out on the channel about where the ready-made food comes from. And it might be interesting to watch that after this video, because I think it's quite fascinating to show that. Now, these supermarkets are not your usual big box supermarkets. They're generally a more smaller format, yet they've got everything you need. So all of the normal fruits and vegetables, and then generally a lot of seasonal things. And then of course mixed in will be non-seasonal products as well. So it's really a matter of finding things that are in your price range. Of course, out of season, you wouldn't necessarily buy mangoes, but you can still get them. Maybe you wouldn't buy blueberries or raspberries, but they're available. And you can still get everything in Russia. Now, a lot of people will question that, of course, I'm in the center of Moscow, there's more choices. But there's not a lot of people probably aware of this being a very typical Russian supermarket. And even some people may not speak highly of Magnit and not like shopping in these stores because it's Magnit. And that's personal choice, of course. It really doesn't bother me where I go and buy my products from, as long as they have what I want. That's really the most important thing. There is more drinks here. This is really interesting. This is A4, and he's a very well-known Russian YouTuber, and he has his own line of drinks and snacks. Maybe we need the Traveling with Russell selection in here as well. You can get some nuts and dried fruits. This is all by weight, so you just buy whatever you need. Scoop yourself a handful. There are some dates, I think, as well. And of course, very normal, typical things as well. What I'd be very curious to know, especially from all the shoppers that come in here, is how many people live locally or in the nearby apartment buildings, or how many people just stumble upon this place walking down the street. Now, as you walk down Tverskaya Street, I think most people's minds are about walking towards Red Square, or walking back up the street towards Pushkin Square, and maybe aren't looking for the most typical supermarket in Russia. And to be able to just walk in and buy normal products at normal prices, and this isn't inflated because you're in the center of Moscow. It's not overpriced because it's a 24-hour shop as well. And what's interesting, and this is open 24 hours a day, so you can shop anytime. Perhaps people who do live nearby come in here. There is a fridge here with some chicken. We actually buy this brand of chicken quite a lot. We have an air fryer now, so we're experimenting with all sorts of different things in there. There is some other meats in the fridge here. And of course, Heinz hasn't left. There is also some Russian brands as well. Actually, the large bottle there for 200 rubles. So just a little bit over $2. And then the one thing when you come to these basement supermarkets, especially if you're not used to them in terms of the layout, it is a bit hard to figure out where things are the first time you walk in. So you might end up doing a couple of laps around trying to figure out where things are. When I go to my local one, I'm used to it because I've been there thousands of times. So I know which shelf has what item on it. Lots of biscuits here, cookies, snacks. There's actually one fridge here with some frozen items. Even if you want frozen broccoli, frozen cauliflower. There is some porridge and muesli. So it's really a little bit of a, I'm not sure how to describe it, like a secret Aladdin's cave of food. You can walk around and keep finding things. Maybe you'll find something that you're not used to or something different. This is a little bit interesting. So this is Miratok, which is actually a meat manufacturer here in Russia. They're the largest meat manufacturer in the whole country. They supply most of the fast food service industry. Then they package their own products for sale in their own supermarkets. And they also sell things in other supermarkets. So imagine where you live, one brand of supermarket selling in the competing supermarket. Here is candy, which is pay by weight. So we just want a few of something. All of the Western brands and then all of the very well-known Russian brands. This is how my wife likes to buy her sweets. She'll get a few different types that way. And we come down the back to the fridges here, where all of the dairy items are. Now, people did always question in a lot of videos that things are locked up. They're in anti-theft cases. I think I would struggle to find anything in this store locked up. Look at the choice of hams and salamis. Plenty of choices. If you need sausages, maybe some seafood. I think I'm reaching the back corner of the store. Generally when I come to this particular location, I just come in to grab a drink and head on out. Lots of different processed fish. And then of course, mayonnaise. You can even get these different flavored Heinz as well. So there is 57 varieties. And surprisingly, a lot of them are here in Russia. All the coffee up the back here. Nescafe is now in Russian Cyrillic, which is quite interesting. And then of course, pasta. And there's still Italian brands on the shelves if you want to not buy the Russian produced brand. One thing I really do want to point out is how far we are away from the cash register and the sales staff. And it's way off in the distance from this back corner of the store. And then there's all these little side sections, and a lot of this is determined by the construction of the building. So where there is pillars and blind spots in the store, and people just come about their day, and there's no thought of, perhaps stealing something or taking it because there's no staff here and we're so far in the back of the shop. Big selection of oils, and then all of the dairy products. So everyday normal bottle of milk. Where are we? Now, my biggest pet peeve in Magnit is not having the right price tags on the shelves. So the everyday bottle of milk doesn't have the sign. The one next to it does. So actually you're looking here, 90 rubles, 109 rubles. So just over $1.20 for a bottle of milk. And then we have some long life milk down here as well. Plenty of yogurts. Actually on this side there's an entire section of yogurts. My favorite strawberry drinking yogurt right here. It's very delicious. And let's have a look at the price of eggs. This might be really interesting. Now keep in mind again, we're 700 meters from Red Square. We are in the center of Moscow in a 24-hour shop. And a carton of everyday eggs is 68 rubles, which is about 80 or 90 cents US. It's definitely less than €1 or £1. It's just over $1 Australian. Now there is different choices of eggs. There is plenty of choices. They're not refrigerated. However, the everyday pack of eggs, even another one here for 72 rubles. The going rate for a US dollar right now is about, I think it's 86 rubles to $1. It has gone down a little bit over time. Now have a look how quickly I draw a crowd. I come to the very back corner of the shop and then I'm suddenly crowded by everybody. It's not a problem really. But how cheap are the eggs? You'd think because it's a 24-hour shop and we're in a metropolis city that prices would be higher, but they're actually cheaper. This is something that's very hard to grasp, but I guess me coming to make videos like this explains it a little. Plenty of flavors of Lay's. Now this shop doesn't have its own in-store bakery, so all of the bread and bakery products would come from a bakery somewhere in Moscow region. Lots of these healthy bread items. This is my funniest thing that I find in the shop, American sandwich bread. And what's so strange is it's twice the price of a loaf of bread here in Russia. So 125 rubles for this particular one. And let's have a look for a normal loaf of bread, an everyday one on the shelf, if I can find one. There's lots of people passing by, not to get in their way. And then just here, 62 rubles is the, actually it's even more bread for a loaf right there. So that's right about $1 Australian, or about 80 cents. You've got lots of choices of bread though. And these would come from a local bakery. They'll have the same expiry and best before on them. Have a look, they've got a new flavor of Lay's. Flaming hot. Looks like, I'm not sure, there's a lemon or a lime on them. It's also a salsa flavor as well. So if you're from Plano, Texas, let me know, do you have these flaming hot Lay's? However, we've got them here in Russia. There is the baby food section, plenty of Russian brands and then Western brands as well. Nestle, personal care items, and then over here we've got all of the cat and dog food. Now I'm curious, and I just don't remember seeing these in Australia as much, these sachets of food. Are these a thing around the world? Somebody let me know, particularly if you're in Australia or in a different country. Is this how you buy them? Now have a look from a wide shot here. There is no canned cat or dog food. It's either the biscuits or the wet food is in sachets. Is that just a Russian thing? Please let me know if it is or not. And we come around to all of the washing powder and then cleaning products. I know the prices are very normal. When I look at the large fairy, 180 rubles. Generally this is 199 rubles. So how can I get things on special in the center of Moscow? Yet I'll go to another shop where I live, 50 kilometers away, and it's a higher price. If you're jealous about plastic cups, plastic plates, there is a whole section of them right here. And cleaning supplies, but they're still available. Where are the straws? I think they're over. No, these are spoons. We want to know where the plastic straws are. They must be somewhere tucked away in the back. As I slowly make my way out of the shop, my question for you is this typical? Now, is your local shop like this? Is your local 24-hour shop like this? And is there this sort of selection? Now, Magnit, for almost every Russian, is as typical of a supermarket as they come. And if people who are here in the center of Moscow wanted to find something that they're familiar with, they would come to this store and come and buy something. But is this typical of where you live? I am very curious to know in the comments. Can you please let me know? Now, probably the layout of the shop is not as typical. However, the shop itself and how it's designed, so once everybody does their shopping, they make their way back down to the registers. What's super interesting is we walk past all the free self-checkouts and everybody's waiting in line for the normal employees to help them. As I walk from end to end, I want to get myself a cold drink. Is this typical? And let me know in the comments where you're from and make a comparison about this store. There is 29,000 of these in Russia. This is not a one-off shop. These are literally across the entire Russian Federation. As I make my way out of the store and back up the steps to head on out, this is the only thing in Russia, particularly in older buildings, they aren't going to retrofit putting an elevator in here or some way to get out of it easier. You still have to manage the staircase. I hope you found this video interesting, and to walk around a Russian typical supermarket, and I think perhaps the most typical of Russian supermarkets, 29,000 of them. I've got to repeat that to myself even, how many there are. And we come out and we're on the famous Tverskaya street. And perhaps, can you see the Kremlin just behind me? And of course, I think the Magnit sign right here. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed this video and my brief walking tour from Red Square up here. If you want to post a comment, if you want to give the video a like or a thumbs up, you're more than welcome to do that. And then if you want to follow me on Telegram, the link to my channel is right here. And then over here is another video. You can click this and keep traveling with Russell. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.